We're going everywhere live, everywhere.
Oh, did you finally set up our Kick account?
No, you know, it's funny. I was on that the other day. I forgot the password. I got to refine that. Someone got kicked off Kick the other day. I couldn't believe it. That's a rare
Really? I thought that was the whole thing behind Kick.
Well, no, there are rules. You can't just go crazy. The FCC will come down on you. They don't like that. You know, so you can't go completely bonkers.
What's the next one past Kick? Is that Rumble?
Well, that's more political, I think, than anything.
Is that mostly a political organization?
What's up, Picard? Make it so.
Not a lot of retro content on Rumble.
Well, you know, I don't go on a Rumble. I'll be honest with you that much. I've been on Kick, so just to watch gambling. But Rumble is not what I've been on to. What's up, fellas? What's up, Mitch? Edmonds, good to see you guys. Oh,
it
Jacob,
is weird.
What's going on, man?
Oh, hey, Jacob. I need to turn on the Twitch so I can see. Now, Aaron, you know, I'm sort of a one hobby man. I get something and I stick with it.
Please don't make me spit out my booze. I'm right in front, right on camera. Please stop. What's up, Pitchbot?
Well, you might be surprised that something new has taken over my life.
Okay.
And
what's the hobby du jour this week?
The hobby du jour is right behind me. I'm going to move my head so you can see it. It's in that tarp back there. It's right beside the arcade machine.
Okay.
I got myself a 3D printer.
Oh, now well, see that's far less insane than your usual antics.
That's true.
Okay. That's not that bad.
It was gifted to me, which was also nice. Circumstances that I'll relay off air.
What a deal!
And so I've been going crazy for a long time. I was like, man, 3D printer. I guess it's a cool idea, but what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
You know, what can I print? But then I discovered that there's all kinds of people that have made inserts for my board games, so you can like organize things neatly instead of just having piles of baggies, you know, in the board game.
Yeah.
And so
you're pretty well organized generally, I think.
I love being organized. I love it. And so if there's a thing that I can do to make me more organized, I'm all in.
Hold on, I'm going to make some adjustments here in the audio. It is funny, Boat. It's not ha-ha funny. But I haven't adjusted mine yet, everybody. I'm trying to feel with Boats first. You know, I'm going to tell the people something. Now, you may not have heard this. I went to war. With Windows the other day. You know, and the war has just begun, by the way.
Did you install that thing Velociraptor was talking about?
I did. I did do that. And to be honest with you, it didn't do it's not nearly enough because the problem is, here's the problem. Windows is from the devil. You know, and so but the problem is so which one of the things from the devil are you going to pick? You know, and so there's only one. There's really only one. And you could pick up the old Linux build.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been hesitant. Extremely hesitant to get the old Linux going because I just don't want the hassle. If I'm honest.
Yeah.
You know,
nothing's going to work. You're going to have to relearn everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know a little bit. It's not like I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. I know a little bit about it, but it's just a pain, man. You know, what's up, O-Rom? Do I sound? Oh, now I'm too loud. Boy, that's the story of my life, too, by the way. Let me turn me down. Turn me down. Oh, man. Okay, sounds good. That's great. And I've made some adjustments to Boat. But every time, and we just before we came on the air, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, the Amigos are close to being on time. You know? By the way, we had you set up perfectly. Now you're slouching, Boat. I'm going to get you a booster seat.
I'm not slouched. I mean, I'm just leaning.
You get comfortable when the show starts.
That's what I do. People are just going to have to deal with it. I don't think that my height is impacting our view count.
Oh, no. Hold on a second. I wanted people to know that, like, despite the fact that occasionally it looks like I tower over Boat's at the bare minimum the same height as me. Wouldn't you say you're at least my height?
You are slightly taller than me.
Do you really think so?
I'd say you got a good 1.5 to 2 inches on me.
No.
You're a big man.
But I've shrank some.
Oh, well, we haven't. I mean, it's been a while since I've like looked at you in that way.
What
It's
does
kind of
that
like after you're
mean?
married for a while.
What does
And
that
so,
mean? You don't look at other men's heights? That's out. That's taboo. You get a bad look from me if you look at my height. Thank
and
you.
so, yeah,
I
but
appreciate
yeah,
that.
I mean, Edvin, we've conversed in person several times. I'm not a short man, and Aaron is taller than I am. But you're right. You have, as you've aged, things get a little smaller.
Well, it's all that gravity. Gravity has a
Yeah,
lot to grab
dragging you
onto with
down.
me. And so it's just like, we got this guy. You remember in Joust when you fly over the lava, those hands come up, they kind of grab, like they
Yeah.
got a hold of me with 2 hands. They're pulling me down. But yeah, I try to make it as even as I can in the chat because that
Well, don't
shows
worry.
it's symbolic for the
when I get into it, I'll lean forward.
Is that
I'll
what
also
it
get
is?
closer to the mic, and that's when I start the love.
I can't wait till we're back live because live. But now that I've got don't know if you heard the last ARG we did, but now that we've got Brent's sound all fixed up, it sounded like a whole other show. I mean, the content was the same. Don't get me wrong, but the sound was exponentially better. And I'm like, man, get Bode in here. I'm learning, trying to learn something about how to get some of this stuff sounded a little bit better. But I mean, it's a never-ending struggle, just like the seat levels. You can't win. But I try.
Well, one thing you could do is you could zoom us both out some.
Well,
so when I make small adjustments, it doesn't impact the greater.
You would think that. But the problem is the limitations of the borders of your screen prevent me from doing a full-on zoom. Like, here, let me show you what I mean. Like, I can do this. Here we go. See, but that is as far as I can go because that's where the limits
but
are.
I mean, like if you put it like that, this is like me leaning forward and this is me leaning back. It's not nearly as much of a deal.
You look shorter to me now though than you did. You see, I could zoom myself way out.
This is me leaning forward. This is me leaning back. It's not as pronounced.
We've had this. How many times have we had this discussion over the years? You know how you are. You kick back once the show starts. You get real relaxed.
Yeah, I can also tilt my camera down.
Look
at that.
Yeah, but
damn,
still.
Edvin just solved the show.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Now it's time for a relaxed boat to kick in, where he just kicks back. There he goes. So, now you're shorter again. See, I can't relax because I got a pillow stuck right in my back. It's as far back as I can go.
Are you still using that janky gamer chair?
What? This thing cost me top dollar. What are you talking
about? Listen, I'm not arguing about the expense.
It's not janky. It's a great chair. Listen, I need full body support. It's got to do with being a gamer. I got to do a lot of crap. In this chair, I get full support. That's what I need.
Okay.
Well,
you were talking about having the pillow support behind you.
No,
I didn't know if something had given out.
It's part of the chair, see?
It's part of the deal? Oh, yeah. It's a branded. Yeah. I got it.
By the way, cheap plug. Starspace. I know they're good. I don't know who they are.
They're a sponsor.
No, yeah, right. They're sponsoring my back. That's all they do. But
what is on your shirt? Is that a Muppet?
No.
What's that mean?
That's Destino. That right there is a Japanese wrestler called Naito. That's Naito. He's doing his little eyeball thing.
Is he a garbage wrestler?
No. And his finishing move is called Destino. It's a very convoluted move to get off. You have to see it. Listen, I got a new favorite. Normally I don't like to talk about wrestling, as you know, but I've got a new favorite tag team, and you'll love these guys.
The New Dawn.
No, there are a couple of jobbers that are getting real popular in AEW called the Outrunners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their gimmick is they're straight from the 1983. They're these two super tanned, buff guys with bleach blonde hair that's receding, and it's a mullet. They both have big, thick mustaches, and they're both super arrogant, and they only do basic wrestling, body slams and crap. And they come out, and they've got a move. They've got a couple moves I love because they're just all they do is act stupid the whole time they're in the ring. But they've got this move they do. They throw the guy down, and the guys' names are the tag team name. The Outrunners is one of them's called Turbo Floyd. Right, it's one of the two guys.
I like it.
And the other one's name's Truth. And so Truth will look at Turbo Floyd. He'll be like, they'll have the guy laying down and go, Turbo Floyd, you son of a bitch. And then they do the Predator handshake, like in the movie, and then drop a big elbow out of it. I love it.
See, that's
then
cool.
They spin around like idiots. And they've got a chick that comes out with them who's in full 1980s like workout attire.
Spandex.
Like aerobics. So she
Yeah,
comes out,
like
her
Jane
hair is
Fonda.
huge, and she looks like she's confused, like she doesn't know where she's at. They're the stupidest team, but for some reason in the last month they've gotten real popular, and they're like.
Now, do you think these guys made the gimmick up and they took it to AEW and said this is the thing, or did the AEW writers say we got to find two jobbers to turn it into
No, they've had this
1980s
gimmick
guys?
forever. Like they've been around
Okay.
forever, like on the indie scene. But and their gimmick, they've got a great theme too. That's part of it. It's got this. It's like something like straight out of Miami Vice, but I mean, they're just two goofballs. That's what I like.
That's
Goofy.
Yeah. Bring me more Goofy to wrestling.
I agree. I want goofballs in general.
Yeah,
Like,
just
where
in
are
life.
all the characters at? Remember, when I was a young guy in high school, or when I worked at Lexmark, you met all these wacky characters. Like, where'd they come from? They were goofs. Like now, everyone I know is just sort of straight laced. It's a bummer.
Well, I think the really goofy people have died, and everybody else is just normal.
Well, I guess you saw that then. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe being goofy is a one-way trick to die. I don't know. I hope not.
Because I mean, think about when was the last time you met a really old goofy guy?
Really old and goofy?
Yeah.
It's been a while. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Goofiness is like,
maybe
only the goofy die young.
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know. My son says I'm goofy, and he says that all the time. And I tell him I'm normal. But I told him, I was like, you should really meet a goofy guy. Like, you'd get your mind blown.
Well, it's all relative, right?
But where
You're
am I gonna
probably the
find
goofiest
one?
guy he knows. Well, you just got to start bringing people in.
Just random, the goofy strangers I can find a best friend.
Hey, Luke, meet this goofy guy I met at the mall.
Like I've told you about my buddy Jarrett from middle school. He's this guy. He's a white guy, pudgy, with a big, huge white dude mullet afro, right? Suddenly he just shows up in a full Michael Jackson outfit. See, that's what I'm talking about. Why? Like, what prompted that? You knew you were going to get ridiculed. That's because the goofy people, the truly goofy, they can't help themselves. They're nuts.
That's right.
I don't know. But yeah, that's why I like him. What have you been doing?
I was watching.
Go ahead.
I was watching Kim Justice. She was streaming the other day.
Oh yeah.
And she had a Haystacks match on from the early days. I didn't realize.
Yeah, he stinks.
The Haystacks was not exactly a great worker in the ring.
No,
he's all right on the stick, but he didn't move around a lot.
Well, you got two of your Haystacks. There's Giant Haystacks and there's Haystacks Calhoun.
Okay,
Giant
I'm not really sure. I
Haystacks is
can't
the
remember
British
which
guy,
one it
and
was.
Haystacks Calhoun is like the other guy.
It was definitely the British
I think
guy. It was
that's
definitely
right,
Giant Haystacks.
Because he was the guy that used to fight Big Daddy over there. That was the big. There's nothing people like more than seeing two enormous fat guys just wail on each other. That's what they like. You go to a show. I mean, in a lot of wrestling now, whenever you get two big, huge guys clobbering each other, the crowd starts chanting "meat, meat."
Oh, really?
Meat every blow. Meat, meat, meat. What?
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, that's because it's
Speaking
fun.
of meat, guess who I saw the other day at the parade?
See, I don't know where you're going to go with this, and I don't like where you started.
I saw our buddy Steve. I think his name's Steve, right? The guy that does a Lee. I saw Lee. I think I might have called him Steve.
Lee, the wrestling guy, Lee?
Yeah, the wrestling guy.
Oh, yeah?
He gave me a big hug. He's like, I miss you, man. And so yeah. He was there. He had a Fear on the Farm float on the parade.
Oh yeah. That's his big draw down there. I wonder how that wrestling's doing. Hose,
I don't know.
The last one, Hose like, hey, you got to go out to the farm to watch that wrestling. I was like, no.
No.
Because, I mean, let's face facts. When it was right beside the house, it was great. When I had to drive to Charleston, it was less great, but still fun because I was working the show. It was cool. Right. But when I'm not working the show and it's not right beside the house, and I look at who's on the show, I'm just like, well, same old crew. I'm out.
Yeah. I still follow all those guys though, Casey Huffman and all, they
don't have much to say these days though. I don't know. I think it's on
pro wrestling might be dying in the area. Yeah.
Well,
I really think when we exited the scene, that was kind of the death knell.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, me and Ho stuck around, but we couldn't save it after you left.
It's not the
So,
first time I've heard that.
yeah, we could. What's your god boat? Another one of your hobbies that got the heave ho. Of course, also they
Yeah.
stopped having wrestling. That made the heave ho a lot easier when that happened. But boy, I'll tell you, I'm happy. I was telling somebody at work, it's nice to you don't realize how nice it is to feel normal until you don't feel normal. So like, even though I've had a full work week, I felt great all week.
You know,
It's great
I
to feel
really
great.
feel like for just for the sake of posterity, since you really haven't talked about it, and this will probably be the only time we do, give us the rundown. Give us the complete rundown of Aaron's birthday weekend.
Well, I mean, I did go over it briefly on ARG, but I'll just very quickly. It was put yourself back at August 29th, which is the last day I worked. That was what a day that was, eh? And I was like, okay, I got a long weekend because we had that Monday off and I'd taken the Friday off. So 4 days, no work. It's going to be awesome. So I drove down to the house, got the kid in the car after work on the 29th. I hopped in the car. Oh, no, it was on the 30th after he out of school. We hopped in the car, drove down to the house. When we get down there, there's no power because my neighbors, the house beside mine got bought, and they're trying to fix it up. And their crew was out there working on some trees. And the crews that you hire out in the sticks, they're not bonded by the state, if you know what I mean. They're bonded all right. Anyways, these guys blew out all the power lines by knocking trees down on them. Everybody, so all my neighbors just like, well, we're screwed. So then it's time to sit in the heat, wait for the electric company. So they never showed up. So we had the generators on, but you can only run those generators so long. So it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm in the dark. I got company coming the next day. Keep that in mind. And my dad decides, hey, the best way to get the electric back on is to go and sit in the yard at 10 p.m. with a flashlight. And every time we see a power truck roll by, to jump up like a maniac and scream and wave your flashlight. So we did that for a while till I forced him to go back in the house. So finally, we go to bed in the heat, and at some point,
now you have a generator, right?
We have 3, if you can believe it.
Okay,
but
so was the
doesn't
generator?
matter how many generators you got? As long as you have to have the gas to put in them.
Okay,
got it. And also they put out fumes and crap, and so we did. You don't necessarily want to run them all night if you can help it. So we didn't. So at some point in the night, let's say 3:30, I woke up with a start with a horrible, horrible pain in my eye. I had gotten something in my eye. I don't know if it was because I had the fan blowing on me. I was face down when I woke up. So I don't know if it had been in there for a while. I don't know nothing, except it hurt. Now, I've had this happen many times. And so I thought, well, a lot of times I tried to get it out. I couldn't get it. I was like, well, a lot of times if I just lay still, it'll tear up. It'll work itself out.
Works itself out, yeah.
So I fell back asleep. And I thought, this would be good to go. When I woke up the next day, I was not good to go. I was blind, and we had no power. And I couldn't use my other eye because when you move your eyes around, the other eye sort of wants to do the same thing. And so
they work in tandem most of the time.
Yeah, stupid eyes. And so I was screwed. I mean, I was blind. And so I thought, okay, I got to get this thing out of here. I couldn't get it out. It was killing me. So I told Dad and Luke, I said, listen, go next door to Dad's house. Let me just stay here in the quiet and in the dark, try to work through this. Because I was in like agony. I didn't necessarily want to have the kid watch Dad writhe around in a horrible agony. So I writhed around in pretty much a horrible agony on that day, which was Saturday. And so Saturday night, it occurred to me, hey, this isn't coming out. You're screwed. So I told the old man, I was like, listen, we got to get up tomorrow and go to the doctor if I don't work this thing out. So I spent a nightmarish night that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy, with this thing in my eye. Finally, the next day, I told Dad, I said, go. I had an epiphany as I laid there in pain. I told the kid to go out and get a medical kit I had sitting in the car. And he wrapped my head up like a mummy. And that was that picture I put in Discord. Because if I had something on that eye that would keep it from moving around, I could sort of see enough to get dressed and clean up and get in the car, which is what I did. So we went to a medical facility in Hurricane, and they said, yeah, it's going to be like 3 hours, so go somewhere else, okay? So we went to a medical facility in Cross Lanes, We went in, got registered. They took me in the back. I'm like, oh, thank God. Finally, some relief. And as the doctor walked into the room, she goes, well, we're not equipped to help you. Sorry. I'm like, what am I doing
Oh
here
my
then?
gosh.
So we got back in the car, went to the emergency room at Putnam General. And this Indian doctor got me and eventually and took me back. And then he put some stuff in my eye that instantly made it go away. It was like some kind of numbing agent. It was so, I can't
It
tell
was
you how happy I
wonderful.
was.
Glorious. Yeah.
And then he goes, what's wrong? Something in your eye? I'm like, yes. And he goes, and he opened my eye up. He goes, oh, here's some crud. And he pulled some crud out. I think it was under the eyelid. And so he goes, oh, we need an iPhone. I'm like, I don't have an iPhone. He goes, do you have an Android phone? I was like, I don't have any phone. I can't see. My dad's got my phone. So he borrows a phone because he says he's got to take a picture of my eye because he's never seen an eye so scarred up as brutally as mine was. I'm like, that ain't good. He put some dye in my eye. It was real trippy looking. So then it was time for the recovery process, and that involved basically being blind for 3 or 4 days. That was the recovery. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I couldn't see anything. So eventually, my eye got good enough to where if I could go in my family room, turn the brightness all the way down on the TV, and then I could sort of watch TV for a little while. And so I did that for days and days. I took 3 days off work and rolled back in on that Friday, and I'm doing okay now. My eye seems to be pretty much good to go. But yeah, that was the long and short of it. So everybody that was sent me a note or whatever, I appreciate it. I couldn't read them at the time to reply to them, but I did eventually get to see everybody's notes and stuff. So I appreciate that, everybody that sent me a nice note. People are real nice, bud. I got notes from all kinds of people. I even got the guys over at Rusty Pixel sent me a note, and all sorts of people, all the Discord people on YouTube sent me nice little notes. That was real nice. So people are, it renewed my faith in humanity a little bit, Bo, just a little bit.
Absolutely. And it was,
everybody.
I mean, once you went to the emergency room, I remember when I got my hernia, I had my hernia surgery, and I was at Stonewall. Also not a great place to need hernia surgery. Yeah. When I went, we had to go to the local hospital, which was some small hospital, but I was in horrible, horrible pain. And then as soon as they hit me with the good stuff, I became even more convinced that the power of modern medicine is great.
The good stuff, you can't get it. That's how they get you. Like if there was some kind of crap you could just put in your eye when you were in pain and instantly the pain would go away. Like, where is that?
Well, the problem is then you wouldn't go to the doctor, and then eventually you would be blind for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, that's pretty much exactly what I said. Yes, Evan, I thankfully, I never get sick, knock on wood. And so I've got buckets and buckets, months and months of sick time saved up. So
you know how many sick days I have?
I don't.
Banked? 75.
Yeah, that's good, Bode.
I could be sick for the rest of my life.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, we're very fortunate, Bode. I mean, granted, hernia or heat stroke, the things you've had happen are horrible. But I'd say we're pretty lucky in terms of getting sick.
I've never had have to take extended leave before.
Yeah.
So.
That's one thing we do have going through. Of course, I work for the Kentucky State Police. You get that state police action.
Yeah.
I got the state police insurance. I got the state police sick time and vacation. And I've been at the KSP 10 years in December.
Oh what are they going to do for you? What kind of did they give you a clock or
Well, I don't know. It hadn't happened yet, but
let me know what they give you.
On my 5-year anniversary, they gave me a piece of paper that said, "You've been here 5 years. Well done." So that was something. So maybe I'll get a bigger piece of paper that says that. But yeah, I'm happy that's all over with. Golden handcuffs. I like every part of that idea. I'm happy it's over with. I was super happy to get back in the saddle when me and Brent did ARG last Sunday. It's the first time I'd gotten to get back in the game, and I was it's just happy. When you get used to something every week, you sort of take it for granted. We take a lot of stuff for granted. Let's just put it that way. Not me. I mean the royal we. And so I'm trying to take a harder look at things and try to enjoy them as much as possible. It's sad that it takes being blind for a while to understand how important not being blind is, but I'm dumb.
Hey, I get it. All right, man. So here's the deal with the show.
Yeah,
we're doing what I said last time. We're right into it. The banner's in the back.
What's that mean?
Banners in the back, just
I
like
don't.
that song.
I don't
We're
know what you're
going
talking.
right. We're going right into the review this week, right after the cold open, the
Why?
theme,
Wait,
right
because I
into
don't
the game.
have
We
a. I don't.
talked about this.
Yeah, but
We talked
I
about it.
said that was a bad idea.
No, you said I've always wanted to put the banner at the end of the show, and I said, great, we'll do it next week.
So we're not gonna. So we're gonna open right up to where?
We're gonna. I mean, it's gonna be. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Amigos. I'm John. I'm Aaron. Today, Aaron, we're gonna talk about the Viking Child. Oh, that's right, Boat. The Viking Child.
Is that
And
is
then
that your me impersonation you just did?
Well, yeah.
Is that what I sound
dead
like to
on.
you? Like a
Yeah.
John Madden?
Sort of like a a cross between like a drunk John Madden and Randy Savage.
So I don't sound like I don't sound like a cool person. A drunk.
Both
who?
of those guys are
Randy's-
cool.
My God. Okay, well, sure. Okay, Boat, you're the weird guy. It's funny that you didn't mention this before the show.
We talked about it. Well, you
No,
were
you
while you were
didn't.
blind. You were writhing around in pain, and I was like, "What do you think about the banner?" And you're like, "Ah!"
I can't help but notice you slipped this stuff past me at the exact moment I'm at my most vulnerable. Let me guess. Is there another show coming up after this one I don't know about?
Oh yeah, we're starting the CPC show this week.
Oh,
too.
Christ. Hey, by the way, everybody, stick around for Ask the Amigos immediately after whatever you are getting ready to see. Fine, let's do it. Here we go, everybody. Ooh, Atmos. That would be cool. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Here we go, Bo. You got your baloney ready? Let me check on the baloney status here. There we go. Okay, baloney is locked and cocked. Here we go, everybody.
The Amiga answers Wonderboy with the Viking Child, plus the latest Amiga news on Amigos Everything Amiga. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about Prophecy I, the Viking Child.
That's a mouthful, Boat. Let's get into it. That's a catchy love tune from.
I do like it. I do like
the Viking Child. Can we just call it the Viking Child for short?
Let's. I think the Viking Child is what we'll refer to it.
Because there's a lot. That's a long drawn out name. I always wonder how they come across these huge names, especially since this is the only one they made. They had
I feel
plans.
like you've got to have delusions of grandeur to call your first name something Part 1, unless it's like
Always like
even Star Wars
that.
didn't do that, you know?
Yeah, it was Part 4. That's what made
right.
Even as a kid, I was like, "What do we miss? I don't know what's happening."
Do you remember Leonard Part 6?
Yeah, I didn't hate it as much as a lot of people, but it was still horrible. It was better than Ghost Dad.
Child. Yeah,
well,
that's true.
There are reasons to be scared of that now that have nothing to do with it being a kid. That's for sure. So, Bo, had you played this bad boy before it honed into view?
I'd never played Prophecy I, the Viking Child. Now, I probably never would have, just because that name screams to me like drawn out RPG, like perhaps even dungeon crawler. With a name with that many words in it, I'd stay away.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, let's get into the particulars here, and then we'll jump into the meat of it. Prophecy I, the Viking Child, released on the Amiga in 1990. Now, everything I read, Bo, says this came trotting across from the Atari ST. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's a blurb on, I believe it was on Hall of Light, that says this was programmed on a Mega ST Atari computer, and the graphics were drawn with the Atari graphics package called Neo Chrome. So
okay.
There you go. So there's a little tidbit there. It's the only place I read that, but hey, they're good over there. This was published by an outfit called Electronic Zoo, unusual, and developed. You've got this is co-developed. So I tried to dig into what the heck was going on with this, and I couldn't find it. So I'll just give you what I got. This was co-developed by Imagitech Design. Mm-hmm. And Wired Software. Now, Imagitech Design have done a bunch of stuff on the Amiga. It's funny, they did more stuff than I would even remembered, Boat. They did Airborne Ranger, which is a pretty popular game across multiple platforms. They did American Gladiators. We got to play that one of these days.
I'd love to play that.
Butcher Hill, Combo Racer, Combo Racer, and the Human series, your favorite. More human than human. Wired Software, this is their only offering, from what I can tell. This is also, this is one of those games that have like tons and tons of weird credits. The copyright on it is, first of all, it's got a copyright listing from DMA Systems and IDL Group.
Right. And don't be fooled. This is not DMA Design.
No. Because I was fooled at first, yeah.
2 development houses with DMA in it. That's unfortunate.
The design on this is credited like a listen to this. This is the design credits. Nigel Cook, Mark Fisher, Anthony Rossbottom, Martin Hooley, and Neil Young was involved.
Old man,
well.
take a look at me now.
And the manager of this is listed as Mark Fisher, and the coder is Mark Fisher. Mark Fisher also coded Airborne Ranger and Special Forces. So this is slightly outside of his wheelhouse, I would say.
Yeah, well, it's funny, I feel like so many times in the software development trade, you get one shot to make your game, and this was Mark Fisher's one shot.
Yeah.
He was the coder, he did the design, he wrote the story, he did everything. And I was looking at his credits on Moby, and this was definitely his time in the spotlight. Then after this game, he went back to being a programmer, and then he sort of had a Dean Bent like existence after this game.
He got around. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, he got around.
Good, nice. Hey, I'm always for a Dean Bent name drop, brother.
Yeah, man.
But big shout out to Dean. Graphics on this were done by the aforementioned Anthony Rossbottom and Andrew Gilmore. Rossbottom also worked on Airborne Ranger, Butcher Hill, Special Forces, and Andrew Gilmore worked on the Humans, the American Gladiators, and of course one of our favorites, Brutal Paws of Fury. Which is a real dud. Now, the music on this, and this game is comprised of 22 big tracks, I believe. It's a ton
huge.
Of tracks. Was Barry Leach. This guy has done a ton. Just to name some of his more famous offerings. Of course, he worked on Supercars 2, Lotus 2, Silkworm, Harlequin, which we looked at, the Human series, Hero Quest. A ton of stuff. So, I mean, this guy, he's another guy. You don't really hear a ton about him, but like of course, you do hear about his Lotus stuff. But I mean, he's a prolific. He worked everywhere. He's got tons of credits.
Yeah.
I mentioned
he's right up there with Brimble and all. Any of the big names on the.
That's right. Yeah, exactly, Boat. This was released on. I'm not gonna lie. I was astounded at the number of systems this was released on. I'm just gonna run them off. Again, as far as I can tell, this was designed on the Atari ST, and the Atari and the Amiga version were both released in '90. There's a DOS port from '91, along with a Lynx port. That's our Atari Lynx port. A Game Boy port in '92, and then this eventually made its way onto Steam and whatnot. And so you can find a Linux, Windows, and Macintosh port that came out in 2017. I'm guessing that's because you can get it off Steam or whatnot. Now, I can't confirm this. I only read it one spot, but I'm going to throw it in. They had planned to do more ports than this. All right, I don't know if you saw this anywhere. Apparently, work was either contemplated or began on the Game Gear, the Master System, and the C64.
Well, I'm telling you, these games that were released in that 90 through 92 time period, that was probably the most crowded the console market ever was.
Yeah.
Because you still had a lot of people real interested in the 8-bit systems, the Master System, the NES. Plus you had all the 16-bit computers, and then right around the corner, the Genesis is hitting its stride, the Super Nintendo in 91. So, and then all of the came and went handheld systems like the Lynx and the Game Gear. So I wasn't that surprised that this game got ported to so many different outfits. I do believe that the Game Boy port was a EU only release. I don't think it got an American release. Could be wrong about that. In fact, I think I am wrong. I just checked on Moby, so I take that back.
Self-correcting.
But it didn't surprise me that this game made it to so many different systems.
Well, if you look at this game, and we'll get to it in a minute, this game doesn't scream high system demand to me when it comes
not
to
at all.
Now, So can I see this getting I mean, easily this could have went to the Game Gear, the Master System, and the C64. Sure, I'll buy it. Here's a tidbit I thought you might find amusing. I found this on this brilliant line on Moby, I believe. A planned sequel, Viking Child 2, was not released. So someone jumped out on a limb there. Just to round it off, when this debuted, you were looking at a price tag of £24.99 on this one, Boat. Now, I know how you are. You've really taken a turn the last couple years and dipped deeply into the flavor text and the stories behind these. Because back in the old days, you skipped everything. You were skipping LaRue.
Button. Yep.
Did you happen to watch the long, incredibly long text?
I did.
Scroll at the beginning.
This is the beginning of this game is the first of many missed opportunities, because this game does have a lengthy backstory, but it's so lengthy and it's presented in such a slow way that by the time that you get to the end of the story, you can't remember what the beginning of the story was.
It's not even that lengthy. I mean, if you could summarize this in like about 4 words: village destroyed, kill assassin. That's
yeah. This has got your Norse mythology in there. Loki is the bad guy. The name of the world is Odin's world. So they've wrapped that up into this. Of course, the Viking Child. This guy, if this is what Vikings were like as children, the Vikings would not have ravaged anybody. I'll tell you that right now.
This is why the Spartans tossed babies off cliffs right here.
Yeah.
This is the biggest dork. I mean, in a sea of geeks. So let's just talk about before I get into this thing. This game comes up. It's not what I would call option filled as it comes up.
Music or sound effects.
Music or sound effects. That's all you've got. And then you're in. Okay. So this is an adventure platformer. I think that's a fair way to do it.
Yeah.
With exploration that you're punished for, but you'll have a choice. And the screen is really broken down into 2 separate areas. 1/3 of the bottom of the screen is for all your inventory, your score, what level you're on, money, health, time. And then the top 2/3 is devoted to the game screen itself. But we got to have a huge frame, an ornate frame that goes around us. This breaks the Dreamcatcher rule fully by donating. How much would you say? Like maybe 3/5 of the screen is the actual gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say 3/5.
It was a little overkill. There's probably an easier way to have portrayed all this stuff. Although you do have a massive amount of stuff to keep track of. To be fair. And
this would be one of those games that you really could use with a pause screen to give you this information, because it's not something that you need to be switching between a lot of things on the fly that you need to have on the screen all the time.
Yeah.
And since you have to take your hands off the joystick to switch the items anyway, pressing spacebar to get to the equip screen probably would have been a good idea, because that would have gotten rid of the HUD. Who knows, though, what kind of performance hit this game might have taken if it were being forced to be displayed in full screen.
It's amazing. Yeah, I hope the sarcasm came through the microphone there. Do you want to briefly tell the people the opening narrative before we get into it?
I can't. It's something, like you said, it's something about he's living in his village. All the villagers are dead. He sets off on a mission of revenge.
No, they're not dead. They're in like the negative zone. Remember
the negative zone? Okay.
Yeah, there's
a
picture of them like. So, well, I guess I'll look. I read it, but by the way, for just to know that you are instantly going to be screwed, you have to use the keyboard to pick sound effects and music. That was a bad omen for the amount of times you're going to be touching the keyboard in this. The couch experience is not to be had with this one.
No.
But the long story short, this geek goes out to run an errand for his mom, and while he's gone, basically a whirlwind comes and destroys the whole town. And by Loki, and then on top of that, Loki captures the whole town in this like phantom zone. There's a picture of him on the scroll, by the way. How'd they pull that off? But there's a picture on the scroll of all the townspeople giving it the old phantom zone, like this bit, like they're looking at a mirror.
It was the artist's rendition. He was like a courtroom reporter.
I mean, that guy should have done the art for the game. But and so Odin comes down. He's like, "Listen, yon geek. It's time for you to step up and become a man, and you got to go and rescue. You've got to go through all the lands You got to go through the lands to get to and then eventually, once you get through all the lands, you can go to Loki's land and take him on. Which okay, thanks Odin, you're all powerful. How about a little love? And unlike say something like, I mean, there are plenty of games where like Odin will bestow something on you. Here's some like here's a better sword. No, like that game me and Brett play where you play the Jester. Like Merlin gives you the magical like cod piece of fire, something. So Odin doesn't give you jack squat. He's like, good luck, geek, and then you're off. So I hope that's an adequate setup for what you're.
I think that's good.
Now, did you pick? I mean, by the way, the playthrough you sent me, is this you playing right here? Because
this is not me playing. What I did was I took a video of another guy playing, and I blew it up and I made it look better and I cropped him out of it.
Yeah, it looked good.
Thank you, random guy from YouTube. I'll remember your name one day.
So the reason I ask is I thought I was going to give you props here for very competent play. So, do you want to since this is more in your line? Do you want to talk about the gameplay proper here, Boat?
Yeah. So this game comes hot on the heels, 2 or 3 years after the release of a popular Master System game called Wonderboy 2. And Wonderboy 2 is a game that combines platforming, exploration, and light role-playing elements real light role-playing elements to kind of form a fun adventure. This game does the same thing. You are set loose in an environment in which you are moving around a stage that is not. It's more linear than your average Euro platformer. There's not a lot of places where you can really get lost, but you do have different pathways you can take. And there are secret areas that you can find in these games. And so you're set out and you're equipped with a sword, and you go out and you kill enemies with your sword. They drop gold. You collect the gold, and then scattered throughout this land. It's a thriving economy in the world of Prophecy I, the Viking Child.
Yeah.
There's shops on every corner. And you go into the shops and you can use your money to purchase special weapons, to purchase health upgrades, and to purchase special character upgrades like the glide, the cloak, and the speed upgrade. You can purchase extra men. There's no limit to what you can purchase. And each store offers different items. When you go into the store, this is probably the section of the game that is most like Wonderboy. You get the view behind the counter. There's a shopkeeper there. It's either a man or a woman. And like in Wonderboy, where they kind of jive with you conversationally, they just kind of stare at you with a blank death face as you make your purchases. There's a little goblin that manages the store with the person. The goblin kicks the items off the shelf into your arms.
I would love to have the goblin from Barbarian that would kick the head across the screen when you beheaded it.
This is what he does on his off days.
Yeah, he's got to have a real job. That's what he does for fun. That's a side gig.
And so what you do in this game is you move from area to area, but you have to find a key to unlock doors. Okay, so what you can do is you can explore the stage in its entirety, but unless you find the area where the key is, then you're not able to leave the area. And usually to find the key, you have to defeat a boss character. So this is a game where you're moving around, you're trying to find the boss, you defeat the boss, you get the key, and then you move to the far right of the area, and then you can leave the area and move on to the next one. This game does have certain identifiers that make it seem like it's from the more modern era. It does have an overworld map that shows you your approximate location as you move throughout Odin's world. Like I said, that you are able to switch between various items using the keyboard. This is a game that, it's a very okay PC platforming game. Nobody would mistake this game for being anything other than what you'd find on a computer. I don't think that you could find a game with a HUD that massive on the console. They just don't exist. And so, but again, you're trying to get around the fact that you only have one button to work with. and so this is what they gave us. Aaron, what did you think of Prophecy the Viking Child?
Well, I'm going to start. First of all, I'm going to start at the beginning of this thing. When it
Okay,
comes
man.
up, because I'd heard, I've got a bunch of Master System games, as you know. I got a collection in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the games I heard this compared to over and over was Wonder Boy in Monster Land. Right?
That's right.
Wonder
Wonder
Boy in
Boy
Monster
2.
Land. And so I've played that, and it absolutely is like that. And when I say that, I mean gameplay wise, it reminds me of that. But in terms of like in Wonder Boy on the humble Master System, I would say it's just less goofy looking. It's not a graphical tour de force. This thing comes up, and to me, it screamed like early '90s DOS. Just
Yeah, yeah.
goofy.
This is your Jill of the Jungle. This is your Jazz Jackrabbit. It's from that school.
It wasn't that good. It's not as good, but I mean, just dopey looking. Your
Right.
The hero is a geek. Like the plot is dopey. The lands are dopey looking. The enemies are just annoying little critters and goofs. Until you get the part where you actually fight dudes. Your attack is it's pathetic. It's a pathetic attack until you get the magic. You just look like a geek. And then on top of everything else, it requires you to use the keyboard to switch between the weapons. I'm begging the WHD load people, the geniuses, God bless them, for God's sakes, get us a second button in there so we can move that thing around. Because I happen to get up and fool with the keyboard every so often. It's not the worst. It's not the worst game. You can find somewhere to stop and do it, but it does it's almost like they said, here's what boat doesn't like. And by the way, me too. Let's break every boat rule. It's got slow, floaty, jumping. It's got, I did get lost multiple times. The very first level, no one told me you jump in this well. I just went to the end of the level. I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
If you don't jump in the well, then you can't progress.
If it wasn't for the playthrough I watched, I'd have been boned. I had no idea. Did you?
No, I had to watch a playthrough because I had no idea. And this game it's very rudimentary in terms of its programming, because this is a game where you are in the center of the screen the whole time, and whenever you move, the screen moves around you. So whenever you jump, the screen jumps. And this is something that, in the console platforming world, we'd gotten beyond a long time before.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, the Euro platforming scene was kind of in a case of arrested development at this time. But a lot of it too was done on the Atari ST. Maybe the Atari ST, in terms of scrolling, had trouble with, you had to make it like this. I'm not sure what the sort of technical limitations might have been. I know on the Addams Family, even though it's a flip screen scroller, you still don't get the same sort of like the whole screen moves with you type environment.
Well, I think they meant to do it. Other shortcomings. We mentioned the geek. Here's something else we both hate. Respawning enemies all the time. They never stop. They're always there. So you've had to deal with that. Now, I can understand why they did it, which I'll get to, but that's something they never stop. So there's that. The fact that you've got a pretty tight timetable, that when that little hourglass thing runs out, you just die, and you're on your next match.
When the hourglass runs out, you lose hearts. You lose hearts when the hourglass runs out. In this game, you are blessed with a very generous heart meter, but unlike most games, you're constantly, just like Gauntlet or something, you're losing health just by playing, because whenever the hourglass runs out of sand on one side, you lose a heart.
Yeah.
So this is a game that encourages you to explore, but it also punishes you for exploring.
I hated that. I hated that aspect of it as well, because this is it. I mean, can you imagine putting like a time limit on something like Super Frog or Turk? And I mean, Turk, it does have one, but it's not this tight. I mean, you're trying to get around,
I think
with that?
I think that time limits stuck around in all platforming games longer than they should have. I mean, there's timers in all the Super Mario Brothers, and so I think that what you don't want is the fact that, like, your health, when you can't get health from enemies, that's a big difference between Wonder Boy and this game. In Wonder Boy, you get coins and you can get hearts. In this game, you only get coins. So you have, when you go to the shop, you have to choose between, do I want to buy this cool item or do I want to heal myself? And that's a bad choice to give a gamer,
You
because the
get some
gamer
sort
wants
of diamond things or something too, or some kind of red sapphires, and I wasn't sure what
that
those did,
that
if I'm
stuff is just
honest.
your, I think that's just your score, because
Is that
this is
what?
also a score game. It's a
Yeah.
pointless score, but it is a score. And the to me, this game could have been made a lot better if it would have just adopted one of the cooler things about Wonder Boy, and that is, Aaron, when you play an adventure game and you have the ability to buy a lot of equipment, one of the coolest things as a player is when you buy the Sword of Thunder or the Whip of Flame. You get out there and then you hit your weapon button. All of a sudden, you see the Whip of Flame whipping out there. Or when you get the golden armor, you leave the store and all of a sudden your character looks like he's wearing golden armor. That's the what Wonder Boy did. Whenever you equip like awesome boots, the boots of wings or whatever, you see your character's sprite change. In this game, there are no weapon upgrades. There are special weapons, but they're all available to you. It's just like, projectiles basically. And you can get different things that impact your character, like the speed and the cloak and the glide. But there's nothing that changes you're always going to be wielding that crappy sword. You're all going to be dressed in your gray tunic garb. This game should have stolen that from Wonder Boy, where you can upgrade your character and actually change the look of your character. To me, that would have made the game a lot more playable.
I will say, I've buried this because there's plenty to not like. All right, but now I'm going to do the unthinkable. I'm going to praise this game, and I'll tell you why. I praise it for its evil. All right, I've played a lot. This game is very, very reminiscent. It has a lot of console-y roots. It reminded me a lot of like something like again, I'm not comparing the quality here before you roast me, but in some ways it reminded me of something like a Wizards and Warriors, or the games that are cunningly designed to make you want to kill yourself.
Well,
That's
another Euro platformer. So there you go.
This game takes that. It's that kind of platforming game where if you miss a jump, you've got to negotiate your way back through a whole bunch of other jumps to get back to the original place to try the jump again. There's a ton of that in this game. Once you get off the first level, it's not the worst. When you get to the second and third levels of this, you're in flavor country.
There's a lot of blind jumps, and there's a lot of things that they could have done differently to make the game less frustrating. But again, part of the challenge of a game like this is they needed to come up with ways to extend the game time. They were afraid of making the game too easy. And also they wanted you to use all of these, like you have to find, if you don't find the store that has the glide, tool, then you're going to have a real hard time, because there are some places where you have to depend on that to be able to make these jumps and things, or it makes it a lot easier and a lot less frustrating. This game gives you 2 lives right off the bat. You can purchase more. That is one thing that this game improved on with Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy was one and done. It was extremely, extremely difficult. So that's one thing going for it. But on the whole, this is not a horrible game. It's definitely among the better of the Euro platformers that I've played because of its level design. It does not have the caverns of getting lost immediately that you have in a game like Turrican. I was able to get around all of the stages pretty easily, and I never felt like I was totally lost. This game leans a lot more towards Super Frog than Yo-Jo or something like that, or even Lionheart. This game, I would give it, I would say this game is probably a solid B- altogether. If I were a kid and this was what I had to play, if I had an Amiga at home and I wanted the Wonder Boy experience, of course, what else are you going to play? This is going to give it to you. And I really feel like, given enough time, I could have overcome the sort of issues that I had with various stages. It's a challenging game. I don't think that it's an unfair game.
I would. Well, I mean, it's a game where you're going to fail a lot, but you're not necessarily going to die from the failures.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a 16 level game, and you also have, I believe it's like 8 big bad guys to fight along the way. So and I will say the end boss fights, I only got to see 3 of them, But the 3 I saw were, yeah, they're okay. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they're
not like
pretty
Adam's
uninspired.
Family.
Well,
Yeah.
they don't have set patterns. There's no strategy used to defeat them. They're again, it's a very rudimentary school of boss fights. Like this is a pretty rudimentary understanding of the platforming genre.
This is a yes. It's funny. You just took the words out of my mouth. This game, it's got all the basic stuff you would expect in sort of a we're figuring it out
Yeah,
platformer. It's
yeah.
got collapsing platforms. It's got those god awful platforms that you have to walk as they go.
Hmm.
And like there's a point in the forest level where or maybe it's in the tunnel. I can't remember, but anywhere you have to there are areas where you can jump off the platforms, but you can't jump because there's something hanging over you. And so you've got to, on one of those moving platforms, you've got to walk along with it and literally step off of it onto the platform to get past this here because you can't jump because there's something over you. I must have failed at that 100 times. And when you fall, you've got to go all the way back. You've got to fight the creatures that respawn. You
Oh,
know,
there's only one problem in this game. The one serious problem that I have with the mechanics, and it's the falling mechanics. In this game, there are several areas where you have no choice but to fall down a pit. Okay.
tons of them. Yeah.
And in this game, whenever you fall a certain distance, you lose control over yourself and you become dazed when you hit the ground. Okay. They always put an enemy there to attack you while you're
Yeah.
dazed, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you're taking damage that you cannot prevent, and that's horrible game design.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe I'm naive, or maybe I give them too much credit because you're right. There are tons and tons and tons of places where you take leaps of faith, and plenty of places where you're going to take damage when you hit the ground, and you have no
Mhm.
choice. And there's a beast down there, and they time it, or like if you're waiting for a platform to come up and down, the bad guys time to come over and screw you every time the platform gets there. It's like I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's not like they just threw crap together. Like these were skillfully designed levels. If the skill is trying to make you angry, if this is the
right.
kind of if you're one of these people that like these sorts of games, this is okay. You know, I'll give them that. But I mean, rudimentary, yes. Like I couldn't get past the way it looked, which is sad. But once I played it for a while, I spent probably in one evening. I spent probably 4 hours playing this thing. I kid you not. And it's that kind of game because I felt like a geek. I can't get past that. And the thing is, like you said, the difficulty level, it's not like you're playing Shadow of the Beast or something. It's not like relentlessly difficult. It's
No,
just
no.
frustrating because when you miss a jump, you've got to go back through a whole level to get back to the point where you can try again. It's that kind of game. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Now, we mentioned that this thing got ported everywhere, Boat. You said you tried a fair bit portion of these ports,
Yeah,
as I
and it's funny,
recall.
I played the Game Boy version. The Game Boy version is HUD free because they have that you got the ability to use multiple buttons.
Right.
The Lynx version also HUD free. Of course, the Lynx screen is so small; it's got such a small pixel count I mean, you're really zoomed in on the action on that. The Game Boy port I played, I think, a little bit better than the Amiga port. It was a little bit less floaty. We're looking at the DOS version right now. Looks like the DOS version has a little bit of a less floaty jump as well. I'm not sure if they tweaked these later releases. I'm sure that they did because they're trying to sell as many copies as they can. But of course, the Game Boy version has the obvious graphical limitations, but
Yeah.
it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. It reminded me of remember a long time ago on a show that Brent was on Amigos. You guys did the Blues Brothers,
Oh
and
yeah.
Brent dropped the bomb that the Amiga version was actually ported from the Game Boy version. And this was that kind of reminded me of that, where the Game Boy version not bad at all. So
I I looked at a couple of the different versions. I didn't play any of the other versions. I mean, the PC version, for example, it's not nearly as colorful as the Amiga version. I mean, this game gets better when you start getting when you acquire magic and you start having the ability to shoot heat-seeking fireballs, and you become a master. Now, the downside of this is we didn't mention how you launch this stuff, which you have to pull down on the joystick. You're gonna
yeah, it's not the
waste a
best.
ton of these. This
Right,
game
right.
really could have used multi-button support like badly.
Yeah.
Because that's a real problem, and that's one thing you could probably get away with on other machines that's going to do better for you is the actual controls. I mean, I thought the game played fair with the controls. It's just, I mean, it was just diabolical. But the button situation is a problem. Having to get up and screw with the keyboard, we both hate that. And so
Right.
that was an issue I had. In terms of how this did amongst the press, Bo, did you look at any of the reviews on this at all when you were messing around with it? How do you think
I
it
did
did?
not.
How do you think it did with the press? I'm just
Boy,
quizzing you.
I would say that in the Amiga press, it probably did pretty well. I would say
So
that this probably got in the 80s. Am I wrong?
yes. So
Okay.
this came out in 1990,
Right.
and I think a lot of the people that reviewed this just looked at it and were like, "What the heck?" No, I mean it did get some good reviews. The people at Lemon give this a 7.36. The
Mhm.
people over at Hall of Light, the lower score is 65%, a little lower. Amiga Action gave this a 79. Amiga Computing gave it an 85. Amiga Joker gave it a 73.
Mhm.
Amiga
So that's
Power.
good.
Now the Amiga Power review didn't come until September of '92, so that was
Yeah.
well after this had been released. I'm assuming at that point it had been released as a budget title. They gave it a 29%. They just dropped the hammer on
Well,
it.
I mean, in 92, there was a
Yeah.
lot that happened between 90 and 92 in the
I don't
platforming
know. It's a
space. So,
budget title though. That's not. I mean, if you get it for like a couple quid, you're doing okay.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was selling
Yeah.
for at that time.
Dator Magazine in '91 gave it 9 out of 10, and the average scores, according to Lemon, 67%. By the way, just a special shout out to Lemon because while we were off, they got hacked, and I'm glad to see
Mhm.
their and as did Lemon C64. I'm glad to see that they got it up and running again. And to the suckers that hacked it, shame on you. What are you doing? Who did they ever hurt? Nobody. I looked this up on eBay. You get it for $76. I saw one that sold for 20 in the box. So I'm guessing 76 is a hope and a dream. Did we get
Mhm.
any Discord action on this one,
We did.
Boater?
We got one. Uh Pajako 6502 writes, "This is my first time with the game, so no rose-tinted glasses for me. It isn't a bad game, but it is a chore to play. Multiple collapsing or moving platform sections and backtracking force you to redo level sections. And moving platforms sometimes carry you along and sometimes not even if they look the same. Sparsely populated levels with forgettable baddies needing multiple hits to kill regardless of size difference. But let's address the elephant in the room, the timer. It's crap. Viking Child requires exploration, but that takes time and your health is depleted every time the sand timer runs out. You can't really do anything about this other than constantly go shopping to top up. Shopping for health and limited weapon supplies requires you to kill all enemies and randomly poke at scenery with your sword of inadequacy, basically wasting time you don't have to find coins. Sisyphean challenge, anyone? The shop itself gets tiresome very quickly as you wait for the goblin thing to move or kick stuff off shelves into your inventory. And if you play in sound effects mode, pro tip, don't. The whole affair is silent. Now, I like Rick Dangerous, so I'm clearly crazy, but I played Viking Child for a couple of hours and could not get into it. So for me, this is a solid pass, an 8-bit game with 16-bit clothing loosely draped over it, 5 out of 10. Good review from Pajako.
You know, he 8-bit game with 16-bit cloak. This game, you mentioned that you wouldn't see that kind of screen set up on like a console. And this
Hmm.
is we've talked this before. This isn't one of those games that like they held on to the old way for too long. With the menu, the way it's set up, the way it looks. Uh, he's right. In 1990 on the Amiga, those borders and crap that should all be gone.
Yeah.
There's a more efficient, more modern way to display that stuff. One thing I will say before we check out of this one, and we didn't mention it, I didn't mention it anyway, is that this game doesn't have any game saves. It's got the old password system, Boat.
Yeah. And that's not the worst.
It's not the worst, but I mean, I guess they didn't want to implement password saves because of the. My guess is they had planned on porting this to everything, and so they're going to keep it simple for the humanoids, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's exactly so. Overall, Boat said he thought it was a B minus. I'm going to go. It's in the ballpark. Let's say B minus C plus. Not a horrible game, but I don't think I'll go back to it, Boater.
If you ask any Amiga repair technician what the most problematic component of a motherboard is, they'll undoubtedly mention capacitors. The electrolytic capacitors that shipped with the Amiga are 30 years old or older at this point, and each one is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode battery acid all over your motherboard, sometimes damaging it irrevocably. Don't wait. Replace your capacitors now. Full capacitor kits for every Amiga model are available now at retrorewind.ca. Don't want to attempt the repair yourself? Use their white glove recap service and leave the intricate removal and soldering process to the professionals using industry standard equipment. Use the promo code AMIGOS10 at checkout and save 10% off your cap kit or service. Remember, make retrorewind.ca your first stop for all your Commodore computer needs.
Amiga News.
All right, Aaron, the Amiga news is hot and heavy this week. We're going to start. Our first story comes from one of the most popular YouTubers in the UK. This is Ahoy. Ahoy has done several series on the Amiga in the past, always wildly popular. His subject of this video is the claim that is commonly trotted out: nobody knows how many Amigas Commodore sold.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and Ahoy, he goes and when you watch this video, he takes you. He could have told you this in 30 seconds. He takes you through his whole procedure for getting this data. It's kind of an interesting story, Aaron. You wanna summarize it for us?
This is one of my all-time favorite Amiga videos. Okay, because I'm not familiar with this fellow, and apparently a lot of other people are. I don't know if I've seen any of his stuff before, but he made me a fan because he tries to break down exactly how many Amigas were sold. We've speculated on this for years, Bode, and he kind of climbs down into the rumors. Like, what are the rumors? Where did they come from? Where are they mentioned? And then he uses common sense thinking and an educated mind to delve into the places where you could actually get figures, including the minutes from stockholder meetings. And he manages to get hold of several, I think 3 of the stockholder reports for key years in the Amiga, including the year before they died. And then you can use the figures because you can't lie on those. I mean, you can, but you'll get in trouble. But you're supposed to tell the truth. And he uses those to not only try to take a educated guess at how many Amigas there are in the world, but he also separates numbers that shouldn't be there. Like, there were a couple numbers mentioned on various web pages that were taken from interviews or magazine articles that they find out that a number they were jostling around were actually the total number of Commodore machines sold. Not just Amigas, but C64s. And of course, that's going to slant the numbers up significantly, when you add all those things in. And what I like about this piece is that he debunks the things that need to be debunked, but he's not working an angle. He's just trying to get a straight figure. He's not trying to inflate a figure. He's not trying to deflate it. And I think by the end of this video, you're going to come up with a figure that I would say is probably the most accurate figure you're going to come around to. Now, I'm no inventory specialist or world surplus genius when it comes to stock or inventory, but I mean, he lets you follow everything he does, and it's done in a way where he convinced me that he knew what he was doing, Bode. I was real impressed with this.
Well, I had to laugh because, I've been talking to people, everybody from Mr. Pleasance to the Mike Battaglia from Cloanto. I've talked to a lot of kind of high up guys about the number of Amigas that they think have been sold over time. And the conventional wisdom that all of these guys, plus all the articles I ever read, was about 5 million.
Yeah.
And so it tickled me that Ahoy, spends 10 or 15 minutes going through all these stock reports, analyzing all the data, getting to the final factual answer, And he came up with around 5 million.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we had the answer before, but now we have the answer with the data.
Well, yeah, because the answer before was just some suckers talking. You know what I
Right.
mean? I mean,
Right.
I think what is also interesting is that you do get numbers for individual countries on occasion. You do get numbers for individual years. How was the Amiga doing the year they went belly up? What was happening? Well, he mentions they couldn't keep stock. They couldn't pay their people that were building stuff for them. And then how did the people after Commodore went out? How did they do? Not so good, turns out. You know,
Yeah.
so this is a
And I tell you,
must-watch.
from a production perspective, the way that he uses graphics, and according to Pixels at Dawn, he does all of his own stuff. He's very, very good at portraying the numbers and doing it in such a way that it's exciting to watch. So I really encourage you to watch this video. It's very good.
This is, if you're gonna watch anything we recommend, it's only 13 minutes long. This is the big winner, Boot.
Yeah. Now coming up here, and we're going to plug another video for a different reason. This is Amiga Mascot Platformers Ranked. Now, you may remember, Aaron, a few years ago, I started a series called The Ranking of Amiga Platformers.
Yeah.
Much like most of the things in my life, I got tired of it, lost interest, and dropped it like a bad tomato. But this is a guy, what is his name? Brian Sharp, he goes through and he does essentially what I was going to do. I don't think he has a spreadsheet like I had where he was, but he basically just does it with ones that he likes. The reason why I brought this up is that he uses this piece of software that gives you can take these icons and you can drag them across the screen. It's called Tier Maker.
Yeah.
And I thought this would be a really fun thing to do, Aaron. Maybe you and Brent could do this as part of Thanks for Giving, or we could do it as part of Amigathon, where we take a game, games in a certain genre and rank them with tiers. The tiers go essential, recommend, good, fair, poor, rubbish, whatever. We can set the parameters however we like, but it's a really neat graphical way to show how we rank things. I hadn't seen this before. Had you heard of Tier Maker before, Aaron?
Well, I watch a show called The Worst Fighting Game Ever. I love this show. It's a series. And of course, his rankings are from like it ain't bad to like the worst with like stinky and horrible. Those are his rankings because there's not a game he plays on there that's any good generally. So I have seen the tier system. I do like it. I didn't realize it was an actual piece of software that you could do it yourself. So yeah, I'd be all for that, Boater. I've got I have to say I hadn't heard of this until I saw it pop up in the news. I'm looking through the list here. We've covered so many of these over the years, but we haven't covered all of them, but we have covered so many of them. And he goes through them in alphabetical order. I mean, just dozens of these things. So I'm absolutely going to watch this video. This is right up my alley. Now, see, it's mascot platforms. Now, when I first saw it, I thought it was Amiga mascots ranked, which I'd be interested in doing that sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, today's guy would not rank highly. But he'd be in the Switchblade 2 category of suck. Yeah, this looks good. I've not heard of this fellow, but I'll definitely check this out. It's Amiga Mascot Platformers Ranked. Good find there, Boater.
Next up, Aaron, one of the biggest releases to come out of the Amiga of recent times is a game called Roguecraft from Badger Punch Games. They released their physical copies of Roguecraft earlier in the year. And if you recall, one of the very first people to demo Roguecraft out in the real world was our own 48K RAM at Boatfest.
Yeah.
So they're really, really cool. This game has now been released in digital form for those of us that are no longer collecting physical new games. And previously in the week, it was on sale for $7.99. I picked it up then. It's now at its regular price, $9.99. Listen, if you're at all a fan of Rogue games, anything from the Rogue to the Dungeons of Dreadmore, the Stone Soup, anything like that, this game is a must play. I'm a huge fan of Rogue games. This is a beautiful isometric Rogue title with the classic bump up against the guy, you bump up against the monster to attack him. It's a beautiful game. It's got beautiful art. And if you do want the physical copies, I believe they are currently waiting for a second printing. But if you just want to pick up the game on the cheaper right now, $10 is a steal.
There's a $45 version of this. It's like the King Dong version, but if you want to just get a physical copy, the standard edition is only $20. Not too
Mm,
bad.
yeah.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Boat, for Amiga Cammy's thing, I think this was amongst the
Yeah,
things I
this was a
played.
Game Jam entry. This was a
Yeah,
Game Jam
and
entry. So
so I
this was
think I
all
played
birthed from
this.
that.
I played this last year, and you could tell even then it's like this is going to be a real wing ding. $10.
Hmm.
This is a auto buy. I
Yeah.
mean, people listen. If you're one of these people that hold on to the Amiga, you spend all your money upgrading your Amiga, you want to have the King Dong Amiga. Get the King Dong stuff that they're making for it too. Because after you spend all that money on that terrible Fire card or whatever, drop $10-20 on this. Get these guys motivated to keep the ball rolling. This thing will run on a A500. It's a PAL version, but then in this day and age, you can get it past it. It'll run on pretty much everything. Requires a meg of chip and a meg of anything else, or 2 megs of chip RAM. You'll be good to go. I think it's a winner, Boat. I really
Me
do.
too.
And I'm glad you picked that up because we'll be playing that for sure.
Absolutely. Coming up next, Aaron,
Oh,
one of your favorite
yeah.
arcade games, Elevator Action, getting an
Man.
Amiga conversion. Aaron, tell us why you love Elevator Action so
Well,
much.
my God, it's a Tato classic, Boat, and it's a simple concept. You're a spy. You've got to get the secret plans. You got to get them out of the building before the other spies get you. And and it's exactly, the name is exactly what it is. It's elevator action. You're running up and down stairs and up and down elevators and escalators to escape the other bad guys. I didn't know about this till this exact second, Boat, as I clicked on this. Another JOTD joint. You guys know that I'm a big fan of his work. I've done a couple streams featuring his stuff, and he never disappoints. I mean, he always comes through. And I'll tell you something, because you know me, Boat. If you drop the ball in some of these classics, I'm going to call you to go to the carpet. But JOTD, in his capable hands, I have no fear. I have a feeling this is top shelf. It's a great game. If you're not familiar with the arcade game, I suggest you pick this up. Now, I'm looking at what he's got here. It's a work in progress. This one was reverse engineered, a little bit of transcode in there. It says here the music's incomplete, and the music on this is pretty iconic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Although it's repetitive, but it's pretty iconic. But this looks great. I'm excited to get to play this, and you can download it right now in its current state. And JOTD is pretty good about coming back and actually fixing his stuff and updating it. So this is just another one to add to his ever-growing catalog of top-shelf games, Bode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll give it another shout out when it's released in its full form as
Yeah.
well. Now, Aaron, we've been talking about Dr. Dangerous for a while. It's finally out. Dr. Dangerous is this is another one of those exploratory platforming games. It's got a little bit of Mega Man in it, a little bit of Spelunky in it. This is one that I really can't wait to play. I've been waiting for it to reach its final form. It really looks good. This is another Scorpion Engine game. Again, if you're developing a new game and you're using anything other than the Scorpion Engine, what are you doing? You're going to end up with a real Bruce Lee if you're not careful. So this game, Aaron, is, let's see, I'm trying to find who is in charge of it. This is Who Games 2017. I believe that, let's see, it is available from whogames2017.itch.io. It's a name your own price
This
deal.
looks pretty tight, Boat.
This is a full game. This is a full game. It's got, like I said, I think there's a lot of Mega Man. What do you see in this game, Aaron?
It seems like that I may have had a cup of coffee with an earlier purchase. I mean, some of this looks vaguely familiar. We did cover it before, so it might be that. This, what does this look like? It does look like something you'd play like the NES or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks better though. It's almost like a Super Nintendo type.
I'm talking
platformer.
gameplay wise.
Yeah.
I mean, you're clearing the levels. But I mean, it looks real nice. It's moving well. You're right about that. Irok's engine, and all credit to Irok for I believe he's the driving force behind that Scorpion engine. I mean, you knew Irok was all man for years, but I mean, once again, his engine has been used to turn out something great, and this does look solid. This is one I'm not having a lot of familiarity to it. I don't want to sit down and play it, but I mean, just the looks of it, the platforming, and I like games where you run around and go up ladders and stuff. And this looks like a fun little kind of like multi-screen, single, like mission-based thing where you go around and collect stuff like key cards and whatnot, and do little exercises on each level. But it looks like I like these kind of games because you get the feeling that you're accomplishing something because they don't take 20 hours to get through a level. You're in and out.
Right.
You know, that's what I like. So this looks like it's right up our alley, but we got to put this on the list. We've got a lot of these new games we're going to have to put on the list to cover. And this is, I mean, we've talked about 2 or 3 today. I mean, there are plenty of great games. I remember that shaky first year when we started this show. We never in our wildest dreams thought we'd be getting to play this sort of stuff on the Amiga. So, like, this is the gravy time, everybody. I hope you know what we're doing here because 10 years ago, we were in bad shape game-wise, and now we're getting the good stuff. It's a real exciting boat.
That's right. That's right. And Aaron, that's going to wrap it up for this week. As always, you can find links to all of the Amiga News stories over at the Amiga News subreddit. We invite you to join us over there as well.
Yeah,
Aaron,
that's some excellent stuff there, Boater.
What do we got coming up next week on Amigos?
Let's find out. It's the old-fashioned Honda motorcycle simulator. Was it RNF? Honda?
RVF, I think.
Oh, RVF. Sorry, they tricked me. It's micro style. They've got a pretty good track record, so we'll just have to see how it goes. I don't. I'll be honest, I've never heard of this one. Bo,
Yeah. No, I haven't. You know, I always think about the Beach Boys song "Little Honda." You know,
Yeah.
not a real motorcycle, just a groovy little motorbike. Did you ever want to get a little moped or a scooter and ride it around town?
Well, I've thought about doing that, but the problem is I don't pay good enough attention to ride a motorbike. That's a problem. I would be killed very quickly, and as a younger man, I would have been dead too. I need the safety and security and the extra seconds that a car allots you for motorcycle. I'd be scared all the time about hitting bumps and stuff. Plus, with I watch a lot of these fail videos, and forever I'm seeing suckers. I mean, I see a lot of car wrecks, but I see these suckers on bikes and motorcycles just getting slaughtered all over the place.
Oh yeah.
I need airbags and cold steel around me to keep me safe, Bode.
The comforts of the cabin is what I call it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Plus, you got I don't want to be out in the weather. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not going to get one of those leather outfits. I'm just not going to do it. I don't have that kind of money, to be honest with you.
Do you remember, Aaron? It seemed like every year, I don't know, I feel sort of bad for these poor guys. Every year in the Guinness World Book of Records book, they'd always have a listing for the fattest people. And then they'd have a separate listing for the fattest twins. And they'd always show these 2 twins, fat guys riding around on motorcycles. Do you remember that picture?
Oh, yeah. It's a famous picture. It's like remember the picture of the guy with all the cigarettes in his mouth?
Right.
It's a lot like that one.
Yeah.
There are these certain pictures that are just, you never forget. And that's another one. The fat guys and the cigarette guy.
They marketed this book to kids. I bought it at the book fair. You see a guy smoking 400 cigarettes at once.
Wonder how he's doing today.
I don't know. Check in with him in the next Amigos interview.
Yeah, that sometimes he'd be holding the microphone to the dirt. So I figured would be happening. But I'm looking forward to this. It should be a lot of fun. And I'll tell you one thing: when it comes to motorcycle riding, you looked like you were over in Thailand, and I know they had a lot of motorcycles and scooters and whatnot over there. And didn't you say you got? Did you take scooter taxis and stuff over there?
Oh yeah. You want to talk about terrifying? Try getting on the back of a motorcycle taxi and weaving in and out of traffic in between buses where you got to tuck in your knees. Or you'll bang into the sides of moving vehicles.
Did that happen?
It's scary. Oh heck yeah. And I'm one of these people. I don't have a good sense of internal balance.
I can understand.
So it's like,
that.
and it's like when you're a hot chick and you're on the back of a bike, you wrap your arms around the guy in front of you. Well, when you're a bald tubby dude on the back of a motorcycle, that's not an option. So what you got to do is you got to put your arms behind you and you're holding on to the back of the seat. You look like a real doofus, is what you look like. That's what I look like.
When I was down in Mexico, down in Reynosa, in that area. I saw a lot of people in scooters and motorcycles, but and I was going to ask you, it's like this in Thailand. It didn't seem like there were any well-defined borders or lines to separate the traffic. It was just like crazy time down there, and I'm sure people just get routinely killed on the roads.
That's what's in Thailand. It's the #1 cause of tourist death is motorcycle accidents.
Really?
Because you can just rent a motorcycle. You just walk up to a guy, hand him the equivalent of $10, and they give you a motorcycle. There's no test. There's nothing.
you having been quite the world traveler, have you ridden or drove anywhere like Thailand before or since?
No, Thailand is pretty unique. I mean, you hear about like everything's relative. I'm sure the traffic in India is worse. Thailand, there are lines and there are sort of traffic patterns, just they're ignored.
Yeah,
you do
that's
what you
that was
want.
my question, because I mean, clearly it's dangerous. Clearly you could be killed. I just always wondered if someone would decide to say, wait a minute, everybody. There's got to be an easier way to do this.
Yeah,
But I mean, I see videos of tons and tons of traffic and people in scooters just skipping right past it on wherever they want.
Yeah, the motorcycles just have a separate set of laws, and that set of laws is there are no laws, and so it's just and like I said, it's a very cheap way to travel. If I needed to get somewhere quick, that's the best way to get there. Because if you're in a car taxi, you're sitting in traffic forever. But in Thailand, you just go you're up on the sidewalk, whatever it takes.
Don't you have to weigh getting somewhere quickly or dying? Is when you're did you wait? You were young back in those days. I bet you changed.
I was so much less risk averse back then in those days. Now I wouldn't even leave my apartment.
Did you ever ride the bike, like drive the thing around?
So I've only tried to attempt to ride a motorcycle once. It was on the day before my wedding.
Yeah.
We were in Thailand. We were in Eep's hometown.
Yeah.
And her old motorcycle's there. And I was like, man, I'm gonna try and ride this thing. And so I like started up and I'm like, whoa, and it's just her aunt came out. She started screaming. She's like, "You're gonna kill yourself before your wedding. Get off!" And then she was right. I got off the motorcycle.
Didn't you drive a bulldozer or something while you were over there?
Yeah, I might have sat in the bulldozer when it was not moving.
So you could get yourself over. You could get yourself over. Just say, "Listen, I drove a bulldozer." So you just sat in it. You didn't actually.
I just sat in it. That was the bulldozer they brought in to tear out the jungle so they could make the road to bring in the big speakers.
Man, Thailand. You should do a boat travel show and talk about that. That'd be a fun listen right there.
That was one of these days. We'll
Jam
do
2025. Yeah, there's your new Pod Jam.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. All right, guys, we're gonna hang it up this week. If you're watching this live, stay tuned for Ask the Amigos. We will see you next week for RVF Honda. If you like the show and you want to support us, patreon.com/Amigos Podcast. We'll see you next time, and until then, adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos Podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.